Hi everyone, we are the Group 4 and now we are going to present a story about tribal scars or double take by Osman Sambain translated by Len Artsen. But before that, let's talk first the biography of the author. Osman Sambain was born on January 8, 1923 at Siguincourt in the southern region of Casamance in colonial French West Africa, now Senegal. Osman Sambain is a successful Senegalese filmmaker and a writer who learned much from the education he provided himself. Although he taught himself how to read and write French, his country's official language, he still believes that it is important for Africans to preserve their native languages and cultures. A distinguished director, writer, producer, and actor. He is the first African film director to achieve international recognition. His roots are not of the educated elite. He worked as a mechanic and a bricklayer before he joined the Free French Forces in 1942. His experiences as a manual laborer and involvement in left-wing politics have influenced much of his writings and works.
Tribal scars or the Voltaique settings. In tribal scars, the setting is in Africa. This song relates to the setting in the story because it is an African song.
The main character of the story are Amu, Lomi, and Momoto. Amu is the lead character or the protagonist. Lomi is Amu's daughter. Momoto is the leader of the slaves who initiated their plan to get away from the slave hunter, and also the antagonist.
Tribal scars or double take, plot, and conflict.
Let us know first the plot. Tribal Scars is a short story in which Usman presents a theory of how tribal scaring first began. It begins with a group of men sitting around a table, drinking tea and discussing current affairs. When the subject of tribal scaring comes up, the table erupts into a melee of confusion, with everyone wanting to add his opinion of how the practice first started. The story that is eventually accepted by all is that African tribes began scaring themselves so they would not be taken as slaves. And ever since then, tribal scaring has been a symbol of freedom. Now, let us move on to the conflict. In Tribal Scars, the main conflict is that Momoto wants Yume to be a slave because of her dark and blemish-free skin.
Tribal Scars or the Voltaique summary.
Tribal Scars is the story of a man Amu and his daughter Yome trying to escape the slave trade. Saer, the storyteller, has asked a question. Why do we have tribal scars? The people of the village asked the elders and they came up with some reasons. Saer was able to prove them wrong. The slave boat was docked. After 8 days, it got raided and looted by Momoto, which is the leader. Momoto's lieutenants asked what they should do with Amu. Momoto told them to worry about Amu later, that he was looking for his daughter. Amu found his daughter and he knew the only reason Momoto had captured the slaves was to resell them. After Momoto's men had taken everything off the boat, Momoto lit a fuse connected to 2 barrels of gunpowder and blew the African up. After they got ashore, Amu was offered a drink by Momoto but refused. They were waiting for more slaves while waiting in the jungle. Amu wanted to go back to his village with his daughter after working for Momoto for 2 months. One of Momoto's men asked Amu if it was true that he killed his wife so she wouldn't be taken as a prisoner, and then asked why he has risked his life more than once for his daughter. Amu exclaims, "She is my daughter." He doesn't want to lose Yomei because he has seen his whole family go into the slave trade. Momotu wants Yomei because she was young and would be worth a lot of money. Momotu was trying to keep Amo and Yomei, not letting them go out of his sight. But Amu heard a couple of Momotu's men talking about it, so Amu was on guard the whole night, with Yomei on his lap. While carving a doll for Yomei, Amu was confronted by Momotu. Momotu asked why Amu wanted to go back to his village. There was nothing left. Momotu did not wait for Amu to reply. Instead, he went to his story about how he once had a village. A man came and told Momotu that the whites were coming and had prisoners. The lieutenant were ordered to kill all the Europeans and take the prisoners. All of a sudden, there were gunshots and screams, confused fighting. The man who was in charge of watching Yomei and Amu got up, and that second, Amu told his daughter by the hand and ran into the forest. For 3 weeks, they ran, traveling mostly at night, and then they reached their village. There weren't many people left in their village, but Yomei's grandmother and Amu's mother-in-law took Yomei into her arms and wept with her. The elders of the village spoke with Amu and asked if it was ever going to end. They didn't want to move the village any further into the forest for the fear of disease and wild beasts. Along they run, they all agreed, and the whole tribe helped each other. The party that was to find a good spot with fertile soil, and they would also be safe from the procurers or the slave hunters recognized by their uniforms. One day out of the blue, the procurers came. Amu, his mother-in-law, and Yomei ran. They went into the forest. Amu's mother-in-law could not go any further, so Amu told her that, or what was up. Her skin was no longer good for the whites to make boots with. But what to do with Yomei? Amu ran into the forest and grabbed some leaves. He came back and told Yomei that she cannot be afraid, that this was going to hurt. What Amu did to Yomei would never make her become a slave. He took her between his strong legs and made cuts all over her body. She screamed until she had no voice. With all the leaves he picked, he wrapped Yomei with them and he got captured. He was taken as prisoner to the coast. Yomei returned to the village and her body was healed fast due to her grandmother's knowledge of herbs. She still had scars, which made her nothing to be slave traders. The procurers came back months later, captured Yomei, and let her go because of the scars. Through the years, people heard about it, and their ancestors ended up with scars all over their body too. That is where tribal scars from. They refused to be slaves.
Tribal scars or double take. Point of view.
So as you can read and hear at the summary, the story has a third-person omniscient point of view. Why? Because the author or the narrator is telling a story but not part of it. So what is the third-person omniscient point of view? It is the most open and flexible POV or point of view available to the writers. As the name implies, an omniscient narrator is all-seeking and all-knowing. In this POV, the story was told from a multiple perspectives. The narrator knows and shares any character's private thoughts. The narrator also knows all the thoughts and feelings of all the characters in the story. So, when writing the third-person omniscient point of view, the author will move from the character to the character, allowing the events to be interpreted by several different voices
but always maintaining an omniscient or godlike distance. So, as I said earlier, the story Tribal Scars and the Voltaique is or has a third person omniscient point of view because it, there is a author or the narrator that telling the story.
The theme of the story depicts the unconditional love of a father to his daughter by painstakingly inflicted scars to the latter's body just to keep her safe from being a white slave. The moral lesson of this story is that treat everyone as an equal in terms of right, opportunities, and freedom. White, black, indigenous peoples, or IPs or non-IPs are the same in the eyes of God, and shall also done her in earth. Racism or racial discrimination shall be minimized to the fullest, if not be eradicated. Thank you.